And what is up, everybody? Okay, last night was the last night of Ultima Lucha, ultimately being the season finale for Lucha Underground. So, but seeing as how it was so big, they had to make 2 weeks out of it. So it was technically a 3-hour event. But they had to make 3 hours, 2 weeks out of it. The first event, which happened last week, kick it off with false count anywhere match between the Mac and Cage. Feud started because the Mac wanted to be in Trio's title shot with Daivari and his cousin Big Rick, but Cage shows up out of nowhere, beats the snot out of the Mac, throws him, knocks a bunch of lockers down with his head, with Mac's head, and then there's a couple of matches that the two of them were in with I think like fatal 4-ways for Aztec medallions, to which neither one of them won, but obviously no love lost between them. They finally got the singles match between them, 2 different singles matches between them, to which the Mac won the both of them. And needless to say, Cage wasn't too happy with that, with the outcome. So with this fall counts anywhere match, Dario Cueto throws weapons all over the throws all over the temple, as he calls it, well technically a warehouse, and and they just go at it, man. It was like classic WWE hardcore, tables, and what I find interesting is that the stairs that lead up to the ring, they're not steel steps, they're wood. So that's different than what we're used to. And it seemed like the Mac had control about maybe 60 to 70% of the match, up until he got his face smashed into a cinder block. Man, needless to say, there's no cutting up from that, so Cage finally wins. Next match is the Believers Lumberjack strap match. Basically, a bunch of fans were armed with leather straps. They got to surround the ring, and in the event of a luchador falling out of the ring, they get to whip them with these leather straps. And it's Drago versus Hernandez. Hernandez being, bad guy, turning his back on Conan, trying to go after Prince Puma. Prince Puma ultimately beating him, and then of course Hernandez interfering with Drago's fight with Mil Muertes, and costing Mil Muertes his title shot. He won the title shot again. He won the title shot to fight against Prince Puma for the second time, but since Mil Muertes wanted the shot, it was given up between. It's like either Mil gets it or Drago gets it, whoever wins. And then Hernandez comes and beats this guy within beats him to within an inch of his life before the match even started. So needless to say, he had nothing left. So when he was fighting Mil Muertes, there was another match between them, to which again used a strap, and he lost via disqualification. He's like, "Oh yeah, you people are stupid." He's like, "Dragons aren't real." Now they're trying to play like a supernatural aspect to this, which I kind of dig, but at the same time, it's like, dude, we know wrestling's fake. I understand it's very entertaining, but we still know it's fake. I'm not now. Granted, yes, those are real shots. Those are real shots and everything that they're taking. I'm not taking anything away from their athleticism or their performance ability, or their combat prowess. The outcome is still predetermined. Therefore, it's fake. So that being said, since every time Drago fell out the ring, the fans didn't do anything, but every time Hernandez fell out the ring, they whooped the blood out of that poor man. He had nasty red welts all over his body. It was bad. Needless to say, Drago won that match. It's like, okay, the technical won over the Rudo. Okay, fine. Now here comes the trios tag team title match between Team Havoc and the Disciples of Death. The Disciples of Death are supposed to be pretty much apparitions, and controlled by Catrina, who is Mil Muertes' manager. Mil Muertes is basically the Undertaker, and rather than be controlled by an urn, he's being controlled by this piece of debris that basically was because his backstory is that as a child, he survived an earthquake. Granted, his entire family, 1,000 people all around him, including his entire family, died in this earthquake, and he was the lone survivor. And granted that pretty much does stuff to you. So the stone that he has is supposed to be from that rubble, and Catrina carries it. So here's the problem. The trios tag team haven't had the title for very long, but unfortunately, you had Angelico, you had Son of Havoc, and you had, of course, Ivalice, whose leg had been broken since the end of the trios tag tournament. And going up against them, and you have you're basically going up against the undead. It doesn't matter what you do. There's nothing you could do, because no matter how many times you knock them down, as long as Catrina had that stone, they just kept coming up, just like Undertaker or Kane. After you beat the snot out of them, finally get them down on the ground, you think it's over. Out of nowhere, they just come right back up. That's basically what the Disciples of Death are. And it was getting very heated, and unfortunately, I would have liked to have seen the title defended a little bit longer, but unfortunately, the Disciples of Death won the trios tag tournament. The trios tag titles. Now, that was last week. Now this was last night. Kicking last night off is Alberto El Patron versus Johnny Mundo. Johnny Mundo and Alberto El Patron, for those of you who don't know, is Johnny Morrison and Alberto Del Rio from WWE. Basically, they were released from WWE, and then find a new venue to perform in. I've never seen Alberto Del Rio compete. Never seen him compete, with the exception of his time as Dos Caras Jr. in Pride, to which both fights he lost. However, he does have a pretty decent MMA record, and I did not know this about him, that he was actually on the Mexican Olympic team for wrestling. I didn't know that. So he's a real wrestler. And coming into this, at first Johnny Mundo's running away, because Johnny Mundo's the heel now, and running all over the place. Alberto eventually catches him, and between the two of them is back and forth, and it's great. It is just great showmanship between these two performers. I swear, Johnny Mundo, basically as Johnny Nitro and Johnny Morrison, he was good. But as Johnny Mundo in Lucha Underground, seeing as how this is Lucha Libre, as opposed to just regular American pro wrestling. He has greatly improved. It is absolutely ridiculous. So for the two of them, it was just great. Alberto just working Johnny's arm over and over again. Went for the armbar once. Johnny rolls out. Then he catches him, and now he's hanging off of the ropes, which is awesome. You think he's gonna tap out. Out of nowhere, here comes Molina. That's right, Molina, his old manager when it was Eminem. Molina, Nitro, and Mercury. Yeah. That's that's Molina, former WWE Women's Champion. Molina is now, I believe, in real life is married to Johnny Morrison, Johnny Mundo. So now she hadn't been seen in WWE since I don't know when. I want to say 2008 maybe, and now she pops up to basically cheap shot Alberto, and Johnny Mundo picks up the win. And the two of them, showboating and making out with each other in the middle of the ring. Molina, who is gorgeous, but who is just absolutely gorgeous, just showing off. And Alberto's outside the ring at first, jumps back in the ring, starts beating the living snot out of Johnny Mundo. Match is over. Doesn't matter to him. Just starts beating the snot out of him, and you know what? The fans are absolutely loving it. Takes him, and now this whole thing started because when Alberto first showed up in Lucha Underground, backstage, he kept taunting Johnny, just coming back and basically, complimenting and insulting him at the same time, patting him on the back, and I was like, oh yeah, this, that, the other. I'm always so close to the brass ring, but can't reach it. Referring to his, the fact that like he was supposed to be the face. He's supposed to be the face of Lucha Underground, and then only to lose his chance at winning the Lucha Underground title from Prince Puma at the end of Aztec Warfare. And all this leading up to one match where whoever won was supposed to basically be able to get a shot against him. And Alberto wins. Then the following week he's going up against Hernandez, and Hernandez winds up winning because Johnny Mundo pulls Alberto out of the ring and smashes his face through the plate glass window of Dario Cueto's office. And took him a little while to recover, and then basically he got his payback by costing Johnny Mundo the title in the all night long match between him and Prince Puma. So now, obviously, both of them hate each other. Both of them are pissed off, and so they're gonna hash their frustrations out now. Even though Johnny Mundo picked up the win, Alberto's not done with him yet. Keeps beating the snot out of him, throws him into a bunch of chairs, then throws him into a plate glass window, the door. One of the doors that they had glass. Had glass so you could see through it. And oh my goodness, the explosion of ramming his head through there. He must have really got cut bad because he was bleeding a lot. He was seriously bleeding a lot, and Alberto was smiling the whole time. Molina, she's like, "Oh my God, get away from him!" She tries smacking Alberto. Alberto grabs her, basically holds her up in one arm like this and starts spanking her. Hilarious. And good for Alberto for taking out the trash that night. The second match that they had was not Mil Muertes. Never mind. Pentagon Jr. versus Vampiro. Vampiro, who was the color commentator for this in the beginning. However, we got to the point where, you know, those jobbers I keep talking about, Pentagon Jr. would go up against them, and he kept breaking their arms, one after the other after the other. He broke 4 people's arms before you know, just before the trios tag team tournament, and he was paired off with Sexy Star and Superfly. But he wanted nothing to do with them. He wanted to fight on his own. They lose, and so he decides to take his frustrations out on Superfly. Sexy Star saves him. Later on, Dario Cueto decides Sexy Star and Superfly are gonna fight, and it has to be mask versus, and it's gonna be mask versus mask. Sexy wins. Good honor. And she, you know, takes Superfly's mask off. She gets knocked out of the ring by Pentagon, who came out of nowhere. Pentagon then breaks Superfly's arm. She's not happy about that. She wants revenge. The following week, Pentagon's talking about his next sacrifice is dedicated to his master. There's nobody else in the ring but the ring announcer. It was a gorgeous woman, I forget her name. And what he does is he goes after her. Vampiro is about to gets up, is about to run into the ring, but Sexy Star got there before him and broke it, stopped it. Sexy manages to beat Pentagon Jr. Now it's a submission rematch to which she was winning, but here comes Superfly, basically kicks her in the back of the head. Pentagon winds up winning. But then, she's already submitted via surfboard submission, but now he's going to try to break her arm. Vampiro jumps in the ring, pushes him off, and Pentagon's pissed. Pentagon decides, to start antagonizing him over and over and over again, and ultimately he winds up agreeing. So he comes out dressed up like Pope. He has the white face paint with the eyes blacked out all over again, and as old and out of shape as Vampiro is, to step in and try to do this, one more time. I don't know, not 100%, but basically he looked pretty old. I mean, he was taking a massive beating. Not to mention the fact that I can never understand the hardcore wrestlers. I'm sorry, you're voluntarily bleeding. Oh, I'm not talking about how the trick with the razor blade where you just do a little nick, you're gonna bleed a lot, but it's gonna heal. It's gonna heal later on that day, and the scar's so small it's not even noticeable. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that he pours thumbtacks out on the ring, and you voluntarily fall on top of him. I'm talking the broken glass because they started breaking those fluorescent light bulbs, and then Pentagon takes the light bulb that's broken and starts basically cutting into Vampiro's now bald head, bleeding all over the place, face paint running. It was disgusting. It was disgusting. The amount of blood that I felt like it was not necessary, but this was a cero miedo match, which those of you who are not Hispanic, that means zero fear or no fear. To which it was fall count anywhere, and basically that classic disgusting XPW barbed wire broken glass, slamming through tables, thumbtacks, chains, and all this other nonsense. pro wrestling. And basically, that's what this match was. I didn't see a need for it, but that was, I understand like beating somebody bloody. I understand that, but keep in mind, this is fake. The outcome is predetermined. You're voluntarily letting your flesh get punctured by thumbtacks. You're voluntarily letting somebody cut you open with broken light bulbs. You're voluntarily letting somebody set you on fire. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. But for those of you who like that sick kind of stuff, there was plenty of it. And Pentagon Jr. winds up winning. Slams Vampiro through a table that was set on fire. Vampiro had to stop, drop, and roll out of the ring. And he put, since it was false count anywhere. That was one of the stipulations. Since it was false count anywhere, you had the pin outside the ring. So he's winning, and so he wins. And before he grabbed the mic to say something, to talk to his master, Vampiro gets in the ring. And his arms just like, break it, come on, break it, mother. They bleeped it out, and of course, Pentagon breaks it. Gets on the microphone talking about how he's made his greatest sacrifice to his teacher. It's like, but did the teacher show himself? His teacher, nobody knew who his teacher was. I kind of knew this is what they were getting at, but I didn't think they would take it this far. And then when this happened, I felt like it was very, I felt kind of disappointed. Even like I knew this was gonna happen, but like when it did, I felt very disappointed, because Vampiro steps up. He's like, "You've been looking for you." He's like, "Pentagon, you've been looking for your teacher. Well, as your teacher, I just want you to know." He's like, "I'm very proud of you, son." It was like, oh, Vampiro was Pentagon's master this whole time. Vampiro was in the stinking, the freaking commentator's booth. How the hell was he the master? Whatever. I don't know. I knew that's what they were getting at, and I kind of felt like, I was like, really? That is such a WWE play. I mean, they've done some. I mean, they like, as far as like their stories that they do. It's like I understand like how some of it was going. Was it predictable? Not 100%. Not 100% of the time. But I agreed with how it was going. I agreed with the momentum. This, absolutely not. So, getting into that. After that's over is the Gift of the Gods match. You had the 7 luchadors that were given the medallions. Phoenix, it was Phoenix, Sexy Star, Big Rick, King Cuerno, what's his name? I think like Jack Evans, Aerostar, and Bengala. Bengala and Aerostar were, I felt like, were like the odd man out. But then you had King Cuerno, who is sadistic, also very agile, very strong. Big Rick, who as a performer, not impressive at all. He's just a ridiculously big dude. That's it. Rooting for Sexy Star, but of course it's a girl versus a bunch of men. She's not strong enough. She will never be strong enough. And the fact that Lucha Underground doesn't have a women's division because they only have 2 women. They only have 2 luchadores. Granted, with Melina being in the mix now, chances are that hopefully next season they're gonna have a luchadores division. Then you got and basically everybody's throwing each other out of the ring. This, that, the other. Pinfall has to be in the ring, but everybody's getting knocked out. Big Riggs gets knocked out a couple times, and so Sexy's in there after having, I forget who it was that she knocks out of the ring, and this guy Marty the Moth Martinez. Marty the Moth Martinez is this big, doofy white guy who swears. Not only is he's Aztec, but his tribal animal is a moth, and his family dates back, and that the medallion that Sexy Star had was a moth. Therefore, that was supposed to be his. He challenged her for it and lost. She had already won it. She had already won the medallion. He challenged her for it and loses. He's not even supposed to be in this match. He pops up out of nowhere. She beats the snot out of him again. But he wasn't part of the match. She doesn't pick up the win, unfortunately. Phoenix does, which good on him because he originally won. I believe he won the first medallion. Then suffers a absolutely humiliating defeat from Mil Muertes after getting stabbed in the back by Katrina. Then comes back to have to fight in a battle royal to win back the medallion that he won in the first place. So good on him for eventually winning the gift of the gods. Then you had Tejano versus Blue Demon Jr. Blue Demon Jr., they say the original Rudo, which, to be honest, I don't know anything about Blue Demon Jr. before Lucha Underground, but apparently he was a villain, and this is a tradition, hence the name Junior. Him being the son of, I guess, Blue Demon Senior. Tejano was more or less a heel. Tejano, another generational luchador. He was the youngest and longest reigning AAA Mega Champion till Alberto El Patron took it from him. There was a beef between the two of them when Alberto El Patron first showed up in Lucha Underground. But what happens is Tejano getting his own matches, is picking up steam, and beating up these other guys, and this whole thing about with Chavo Guerrero, because Chavo Guerrero basically viciously attacked Blue Demon Jr. Mascarita Sagrada. All of Mexico decided, you know what, we're done with you. We're basically gonna start sending our best to take you out. And they started doing that on Lucha Underground. So he quit. He's like, listen, tell Mexico I'm done. Tell Mexico stop sending people. I'm done, and leaves. He comes back, and again stabbing people, and basically works it out with Dario Cueto. Starts stabbing. Goes after Blue Demon Jr. again. Basically beats the hell out of him again, but with help. And when Mexico finally cashes in what Chavo Guerrero owes to them, what happens is Chavo's fighting Prince Puma for the title. Tejano comes out of nowhere, and Tejano in representation of Mexico basically cost Chavo the title. Chavo points that out to Blue Demon Jr. Basically, he's like, obviously Mexico doesn't want you as their champion. Blue Demon didn't take that very well. So Blue Demon, rather than beat up Chavo, decided to take it out on Tejano. So now Blue Demon is in alliance with the crew being in Dario Cueto's black pocket. And to be perfectly honest, in the first episode, Dario Cueto hired Mil Muertes as well as Chavo Guerrero for the sole purpose of taking out Blue Demon Jr. Because Blue Demon, I was under the impression he was a technical. Turns out, nope, he's the original Ludo. Okay, fine, whatever. But this match was ridiculously short. It was supposed to be no disqualification, which meant that the crew could jump in at any time and start beating the snot out of Tejano. And then Chavo Guerrero jumps in and helps out on the beating of Tejano, and Tejano loses. A very short match, even though Tejano was owning Blue Demon Jr. He was owning Blue Demon Jr. And once the crew jumped in and Chavo jumped in, hitting him with kendo sticks and steel chairs, yeah, that in real life, yeah, that would pretty much take its toll on anybody. Finally, the main event, championship match. Conan, having been shoved into a casket and carted off, Prince Puma didn't have the edge that he normally did. If you recall, when he first fought Cage, he had Conan in his corner. The second time he fought Cage, it was the fact that, the stipulation was, if Cage beats Puma, then he would be given an opportunity to fight Puma again for the title. Because Cage stole the belt from Puma and ripped it in half. So, in the fight for an opportunity to win, what happens is Puma didn't have Conan in his corner. Conan shows up at the last second, throws the towel in. Puma loses. So now Puma has to defend his title. Has to defend his title against Cage for a second time. The first time Cage was disqualified. This time around, because of Conan in his corner, basically helping him, and advising him and stuff like that, he was able to pull off the win. And Conan was in his corner just about every time. And what ultimately happens is, I guess, is what they're trying to say was that without Conan, granted he's a fierce competitor and he fought his heart out, however, he doesn't have the edge to really, pull off a victory. And granted, I swear, man, I thought it looked like a couple times it looked like it was like, okay, Puma's gonna keep the title. Nah, Jack. Nah. And Prince Puma, I'm not gonna call them. They're not competitors. They're not competitors because they're not actually competing. However, he's a hell of a performer, man. I love this performance. It like the stuff that you don't see anywhere else. Mil Muertes comes off with the victory. I'm not even going to get into a majority of the backstage stage stuff that's going on. Dario Cueto's brother is supposed to be this beast. There's this luchador by the name of Dragon Azteca, who just finished getting killed by the girl who he saved, because Dario Cueto said that he was the one that killed her parents, not him. It is a bunch of extra stuff. But now, that was the season finale. This is something else I like about them. And like, not only are they not only is the whole show pre-recorded, but they did this just before Aztec Warfare, took a couple of weeks off, and now they're purposely again taking time off. So they're not constantly having to beat the hell out of each other every day of the week, unlike WWE or TNA, which in the next couple of weeks is going to be but at the end is like, I felt like I was watching a very bad WWE pay-per-view. I'm talking about like, not like performance wise, but when like the bad guy wins the title. When, like It's like you're rooting for the good. You're rooting for the good guys. This, that, the other. Like prime example. Shawn Michaels wins the heavyweight title in Survivor Series in the first ever Elimination Chamber match. The following month, loses it to Triple H. I forget what it was. Over the Edge, Stone Cold Steve Austin, going up against the Undertaker, and there's supposed to be two referees who were Shane and Vince McMahon. Vince being supposedly betrayed by Shane, who was now the ringleader of the corporate ministry. And Undertaker walks away with the title. You know, Undertaker being the bad guy at the time. So yeah, it's like that's what it felt like. And I love how like all the backstage stuff is like edited and cut like as if you were watching a movie or a TV show. Makes a lot more sense to do it like that. It's like keep the crowd guessing what's going on as opposed to playing it on the Titantron. Yeah, it's very interesting to see stuff like that happen. But now I'm at the edge of my seat, wondering, are they going to get another season? Is Lucha Underground getting another season? Oh man, I took almost as much time as a episode of Lucha Underground to explain what happened. I took 45 minutes to explain what happened in 3 hours. So yeah, it's somewhat understandable. Like I said, Lucha Underground, like the level of entertainment is leaps and bounds better than anything WWE could put out. They've tried. For them, it just doesn't work. Why? Because they're still American at heart. There's a set tone that people expect of WWE. There's a set tone that Vince McMahon wants and is used to, as well as Triple H, who's trying to carry on the tradition. But and like I said, they're not trying to compete with WWE, because if they did, they know they'd lose. So they're giving you something completely different, something you can't get there. So that way you always come back to them. Unlike TNA, which tried going head to head with them, and well, within the next couple weeks, you're going to see where TNA is from that point on. And just like every season finale, man, it's like, oh my God, what the hell happened next? What the hell happened next? Well, hopefully within the next couple weeks, new season starts, and we'll see what happens. I'm done talking. You guys have a good night.